you want me to make a motion to change the agenda once we get started?
I'll tell you, and then you can approve the amended agenda. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 25th meeting of the Finance Committee. I call this meeting to order. Mr. Morial and Mr. Sides are on the phone, and Mr. Price was unable to make it while he's recovering. With respect to the agenda and approval of the agenda, I would like to take 2A, budget amendments and transfers, off of the agenda for today. And Mrs. McLam will add it to our board agenda on Tuesday. So if we have any questions, we can ask them then. If everybody's okay with that, I would like a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. The next item is approval of the minutes from the January 28th meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All those in favor?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That takes us to the joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners from last night. We were all there, but we asked about the tax values for next year to have an estimated budget number. They told us that it would go about 3% up over last year. That's about $3.6 million and some change. But we did hear last night that typically our true-up funds are between $2.6 million and $3.5 million, and this year they're going to be about $1.2 million. So that's a couple $1 million hit to our capital, and we found that out last night. During that meeting, we also talked about a long-range plan for the schools with respect to some of the older high schools in the county, particularly Forest Hills High School and the middle school East Union. So we'll be talking more about that in facilities as that comes up. So I think that kind of talks about what we talked about last night. Gary or Joe, do you have anything to add about what we talked about last night?
I still have concerns about the true-up funding. I'm not totally satisfied with the explanation. Shauna, have you had a chance to look into that? Do you feel comfortable with what they're saying about that, or could you look into it and maybe get back to us? And
maybe you could explain it to us better.
Well, I can look into it, maybe have some more in-depth conversations with staff, with the county. The way I understand it, it appears that, I don't know if you all remember, but there was a tax rate increase for the county several years ago. And I believe that rate as tax rate decreased several years ago. And my suspicion is that their percentages are based on a number that's not increasing at the same rate because of that tax decrease. So I'm going to get some more clarification on that and see if that's some of what's going on. I know they get better and better at projecting, so they're giving us our money up front, as opposed to it being collected later and being part of our capital. But I'll do a little more investigation and try to get maybe some more clarification on that.
That would be great. You have a meeting with them today, correct?
We do.
Okay. I mean, a couple other things just to talk about as we start putting a budget together. It's going to be a little, difficult with the reductions that they've already named, but we continue to have capital needs in this school system. We have 53 schools. A lot of projects can only be done over the summertime, which is 10 weeks. That's it. I think that sometimes people don't understand how stuff costs. To paint an elementary school is $75,000 just to paint it. So when you have schools that haven't been painted in 15 or 20 years, we're trying to catch up with that kind of stuff. And it's difficult because the only time we have to paint really is over the summertime. So We've talked about bus driver pay before. We've talked about teacher supplements before. We have a lot going on and no state budget. So we have a bunch of stuff that's going to start coming in. The other thing is we've also lost a lot of employees, particularly in facilities in the maintenance department, to the county. So we're in competition with our funding source over employees. So I've asked Shauna if she could find out from the county what their pay scale is so that we can try to match that so that we're not in this position where we're trading employees, because that's just not a great idea.
Well, and we did get some
Do
preliminary.
they also use CDL drivers? Are they pulling our bus drivers as well? Have we found?
No,
Mark says no.
because we don't have public transportation, so it doesn't really draw our bus drivers. We do have some preliminary rate increases from the state. They gave us, I'm looking at for retirement and hospital insurance, probably a 7 to 8% increase overall. We're going to 21.44 is what they've told us to use for retirement, and 66.87, I believe, is what they've given us in hospital insurance. That's $500 per employee on your hospital insurance, and I believe, if I've got my percentages right, it's about 7% on the retirement rate. So, these are, when you start getting into 40% of every salary you have to have in matching benefits, it's going to be a challenge to fund everything.
And what could you translate that into total overall dollars?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me.
What would $500 per employee? How many employees? So how much in an overall budget amount could we be looking for to cover that?
On the local budget, we probably have maybe, I don't know. I'll get some of that. I'm starting to pull some of that information together. I don't want to misspeak, but I'm starting to start running some of those numbers with what we're currently paying out of our local budget. We've got some local teachers and all that we're paying. So, the potential of an increase from the state. I'm also projecting some probably conservative, meaning I'm going a little more aggressive with the percentages because we don't have any indication of what they may be doing. I would hope they wouldn't try to catch up 2 years worth, but the state's got over $250 billion with a B. And I don't, sitting there to be allocated, and I don't want to be caught not having enough funding allocated for us to make up that difference on our local budget.
If I can add a make up here, so our CIP needs are, they don't change year over year. We have used this as a means to get these projects done, and we have planned and basically allocated this work accordingly, relying on that funding source, which has been in that $3 million price range for years. So I just encourage Dr. Houlihan and Sean, as we're working through this budget process with the county, to get creative on a funding source to be able to continue to deliver, on these projects. Because, like Kathy was saying, some of these schools haven't been painted in 20, 30 years, and
not 30.
Need a new coat of paint. Need a little TLC to, keep it upfit for the kids to be able to have their daily education. So the needs just don't go away.
Nope.
I just think that the funding source could change if indeed what they're saying, they're getting more accurate on their tax rate. Well, if that's the case, as I'm saying, those needs don't go away. We just need to get creative with the county on a funding source to be able to still maintain that.
Yep.
We can definitely, we will definitely start having conversations about that.
Can I ask a couple questions related to this? So Kathy, I assume that facilities committee is going to have to go back and look at those projects that we had preliminary assigned to true up funding and reallocate based on the reduced amount and shifting timelines for that work to be done.
Well,
Is that,
as a board, we're going to have a discussion about whether or not we can take less money to keep up the capital needs of the school system. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if you remember 3 years ago or 2 years ago, we gave up $3 million in capital needs because the county
Right.
wanted to reduce the tax rates, and that happened. But we still have needs that don't go away. But so yes, could we move that $2 million off of our needs? But all we're doing is just kicking the can down the road.
right. Where do things stand with the Cox Road sale
So
and the timing on that?
the timing on that is more than a year away.
Okay.
Yeah, even though it's not really a rezoning, it takes a while to go through the process in the town of Wennington to get a subdivision up and running. So that's not going to be anything for next year, I would say.
So that's
Mr.
not a candidate to help with
That is
the
not a candidate.
alleged
No.
shortage in
No.
the true up funding.
That is correct. No.
Okay, all right. Well, I agree. Things like there are certain projects that were identified on that list, like interior painting of schools, that we got to be able to figure out how to do during the summer break. And you don't just do that in a week when kids aren't in school, or you're either pushing it back to the next year, or if it can be done at Christmas break.
Well, that's
So those
the question, because
times critical.
we have to bid it out too. So it's not like we can just say, okay, we got our budget on July 1. Okay, let's get them in there painting, because we have to bid it
Right.
and we have to do all that. So it's the whole idea of why we talked about true up funds yesterday was that there was talk between the county and the school system that maybe we could get our true up funds early so that we could, and Gary, you've asked for that every year, so that we could get it up front and use it over the summertime. So that's the whole reason. But yes, we will have to take a look at that. I don't think that's going to be able to happen for this summer, but we'll do it next summer.
I think they need to understand, if they don't already, that there are projects that can only be done when the kids aren't in the school.
Yep.
And so that with the beginning of the new fiscal year, almost exactly in the middle of towards the middle of our summer break, that handicaps what we can do if we have to wait on a pure fiscal year basis.
Yes. Yep. And then we didn't even talk about water and sewer. So that adds to our budget. That increase of $250,000 is going to add to our operating budget next year as well. So
And I
everything's going up.
have a real problem with that, because the county water and sewer is an enterprise fund, and we're paying for the increase out of our local budget. So in fact, what's happening is the county taxpayers are subsidizing by our need to pay for the increased cost of water and sewer into that enterprise fund.
yes. So
So I don't know. We've had, from what I understand, we've had negative feedback on the concept of a contract, but I don't want to give up on it yet.
okay. Well, maybe that's another part of the staff meeting discussions with the county finance people, so we can go from there. Okay, does anybody else have anything on the joint meeting? Okay, next is staff meeting. I think we talked about that a little bit too.
This will be our first, I would assume, of many today. So after last night's meeting, we will definitely address any, bring these concerns and see what we can start working out with the county staff to start moving forward on a lot of these items.
Okay. The next meeting date is March 24th. Do you think that between now and March 24th, we'll have 2-on-1s or anything like that about budget?
That's my goal. Is we're starting to have some staff meeting. I'm still working through meeting with all the departments and identifying any like mandatory statutory type increases that we need to address first, and then we'll bring in stakeholder groups. Or we've gotten a lot of feedback from stakeholder groups, so we're bringing all that information together. I'll try to start. I've got a time. I think March 11th.
Okay.
The week of March 11th through maybe before the next finance committee meeting to try to schedule some time for us to sit down and look at some of these items. So
that would be great. Does anyone else have any?
Sean,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
As part of those meetings, is that a realistic time frame for you to have a better handle on what increased costs we're looking at this year with some of those benefit changes you'd mentioned? And as a result of not having a budget, what additional costs you anticipate we're going to have to budget for locally? Can you, is that a realistic time frame for you to have some of those numbers pulled together?
It's as good as we're gonna get. I mean, we have to do it's similar every year. We just don't have nearly as much information this year from the state as we have in years past. Some of the challenge is going to be like ADM projections. What is our student population going to be? And I've been working with Don Ogram and Mark to try to see what we can do internally, because they have not provided any of that information as of yet. So we're putting together, like I said, I'm being a little more conservative, which means you're going to see some percentages that I'm going to show you to make sure that we don't misaccount or misproject, but there's no guarantee that the information is going to be 100% accurate. So right now we're just going to have to do the best we can. So we may have to come back and have some discussions. It just depends on what the state does, but I'm really going to try to make sure I cover everything that needs to be done, and I have started running some of those projections. So at least with the benefit rates we can do that. What we can't anticipate is any of the salary increases, but we'll do the best we can.
Well, I just think it's going to be important for us to give the county a heads up as early as we can based on the information at hand, which is right now we're not going to have a budget for the next fiscal year, a state budget.
Right.
So we're going to have to plan accordingly, and look out, fellas, here it comes.
Right. Well, and we also have the business system modernization project too,
yes,
that we might have to deal with within our budget as well.
They're calling right now, it would be considered what you would call a self-starter district.
Right.
And so if we want to keep moving, which I feel like we really have to, if not, it's going to cost us more money down the line. We need to account for that in our budget. And then just if the state funds it next year, then we'll be able to work out how we handle those funds in our budget. But I really feel very strongly that we've got to account for this.
There's a lot of moving parts in
Yes.
this year's budget. I mean, we haven't even talked about transportation or technology
Right.
and the capital needs in both of those
Yes.
areas too. So the facilities capital needs are just the
One.
largest part of the capital budget, but the others have other needs as well. And I assume you guys will be discussing that in spit as well. So
I feel like if this, and this is just me personally, if this trend continues and we don't have a state budget for the next fiscal year, which as every day and week goes by, that appears to be more likely, in my opinion, we're going to be asking the county for a significant difference, which I'm sure we'll be challenged on, which may, depending on what they do on their end, may be resulting in some kind of the formula change, i.e. tax increase, at least on our part, to cover this shortfall, because that's the only place we have to go. If we don't have a state budget, the only other place we can go is locally or cut.
Yes.
I mean, that's just
Yep.
my opinion looking forward to the next year.
Agreed. Great. Okay, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Yes. Is that
Motion to adjourn?
I'll send it to him. Yeah. Thank you.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.